Blizzcon 2023 has come and gone with a few huge announcements. And for the Classic community who want Classic Plus, Blizzard's answer is coming on the 30th of November with Classic WoW Season of Discovery. Now this video is meant to be a one-stop shop for getting up to date on all the information that was mentioned in the BlizzCon presentations, in the streams from creators on the show floor, and from the Icy Veins and Wowhead interviews with the developers. A huge thanks to Crix and Rokman for all of their hard work and asking so many banging questions. Links to their work in the description below, check the timestamps to skip around, and with that out of the way, let's answer the question, what is Season of Discovery? The best way to think of it is like Marvel's What If TV series. All the familiar classes are there, but with a few twists. Warlock tanks, Shaman tanks, Mage healers, Paladins with Taunt, oh yes, it's pretty crazy. Discovery starts just like regular Classic. You're going to be in the starting zone doing the first few quests, and then your class trainer will give you a quest and send you off to discover your first rune. These runes are basically enchants that you can place on your chest, legs and gloves that will give you new spells for your class. Some of them are going to be brand new spells that you've never seen before, and a lot of them will be very familiar from other versions of WoW. Blizzard shared a few examples of the runes and boasted that there'd be over 100 runes available in the first leveling bracket for Season of Discovery. We'll get to the leveling brackets in a moment, but for now, we need to wrap up what these runes or discoveries look like and how you get them. Again, thanks to the efforts of Rokman from Wowhead, we have all of the runes available at launch for each class and which item slot they match. Now, because there's so many of them, I'm just going to put them up and cycle through them now on screen with a little bit of background music. Pause the video and have a read of the ones that you care about, or just read them all because it's pretty crazy. Alright, welcome back from the rune madness. Drop a comment down below and let me know your thoughts on which ones look insane, because to me they're all pretty wild. Now every character has access to Rune Engraving by default, and you can swap runes out whenever you like, as long as you're out of combat. So naturally rogues and mages are going to abuse this. They've also teased the potential for dual spec in Season of Discovery, which coupled with the rune swapping means that you're more flexible than ever in Classic. Now because of this flexibility and the power of these new spells, mob damage is going to be increased in the open world to help balance things out a little bit, so we're not running around like gods pulling an entire zone and burning it down. And whilst we are on the subject of balance, they want to still ensure that the game has a Classic feel, and that all classes retain their identity. They know Classic isn't perfectly balanced to begin with, but having an overpowered rune combination that pops up, well, they're just going to get nerfed. They want every class and spec to feel good, but not to the point that this class and rune combination completely trivializes the game, which is probably going to happen, and it's going to be pretty difficult with all the spells and runes that they're going to be giving us, but that's the risk that they acknowledge they're taking, and I'm pretty happy that they're trying new things and they're focusing and homing in on getting player feedback. An interesting example of the balancing that they're already aware of is that the Warlocks, Shamans and Rogues, who can now tank with runes, it's just crazy, they're not going to be as strong as other tanks or like better in all situations. So everyone's going to get their moment, which, if done well, could be amazing. Now something to bear in mind is that the first rune you get is from your class quest, but the rest of these runes are going to need to be discovered on their own. Discoveries are secrets hidden throughout the game world, so they're not going to be like traditional quests with a marker floating above a dude or an icon blaring it out on the map. Some runes are going to be super easy to discover, like finding a chest deep within a mine. Some are a little more complicated, like puzzles that require several players to complete. One of the examples given is that it could be a riddle or like a treasure hunt with a clue that leads you on to the next step that you need to figure out, and so on and so on. An example from a dev was a discovery that needed 2 healers for a ritual to release a dead person's spirit to the Shadowlands, and those 2 healers involved would get their own class's rune at the end of that discovery. They also mentioned that some of these discoveries are going to be at the end of a chain that could span multiple zones. An example they gave was the Warlock's Metamorphosis. So for now, it does seem like the more powerful runes are going to be a little more difficult to find, or they will just take a bit more time to collect. And it's also worth noting that the runes are going to be soulbound, so it's not like it's something you can find on one character and then trade to another. They're focusing more on the fact that these discoveries are handcrafted and they're going to be placed in the world, so they're always going to be the same and not randomly generated bits of content like world quests or something. Just like the design intention of the season, it's all about it being an exciting new discovery, and after the first time, the mystery is kind of gone. Apparently, there are hundreds of these discoveries to find, meaning that there are also multiple ways to find a specific rune. Whilst the number of discoveries and runes might seem like a daunting task to get yourself in a good place so you can tackle harder content, they have confirmed that the first rune that you get from your class quest when you start off is going to be strong enough to at least get you to the level cap of 25 to begin with. Now, the point of these discoveries is something they keep on harkening back to, which is this sense of adventure in the vanilla world that we're already very familiar with, which is why there won't be a public PTR or beta testing. They really want things to be a mystery. They've crafted them all to feel familiar to Classic, almost as if they've always been there and you just didn't notice them. And yeah, whilst we already know the available runes in level bracket 1 and a few more cool things that we're going to get to in a moment, it does mean that the future brackets and their content should feel like an exciting journey where everyone's going to be finding things out together for the first time, and that's kind of a feeling that I've always missed when a fresh server launches, so it's going to be fun to have that back. But anyway, that is enough about runes. We need to talk about this level bracket stuff. So Season of Discovery will be a departure from the usual content delivery system that we're used to with phases. Instead, they're going to be level brackets that are designed to keep players all in the same place, similar to the way that the classic beta played out. So Phase 1 has a level cap of 25, Phase 2 has a level cap of 40, Phase 3 a level cap of 50, and Phase 4 a cap of 60. The first phase is capped at 25 to make the game more approachable and push serious players towards experimenting to get the most out of their character. They want to reduce that new player FOMO and the feeling of, I've got a friend and I want him to come and play, but he can't join because I'm too far ahead or he's too far behind and all that kind of jazz. They want to try and get rid of that as much as possible. Simply just because you can't play as much as someone else shouldn't necessarily mean that you can't catch up in the Season of Discovery. And to help facilitate that, each time the level cap is raised, they plan to add an experience catch-up mechanic to the season to help new or returning players get back up to whatever the new cap is. Blizzard intend to watch players closely with this. They want to monitor data and collect and act on feedback to make sure that phases don't feel like they last too long, or that, of course, balance issues get taken care of as soon as they can. Now, it's been difficult to nail down a time frame from the various times that they've mentioned this throughout BlizzCon, but a likely scenario or an expectation to hold is that it will be longer than 1 month and less than 3 or even 4 at the most. So this is likely due to the live development nature of the season. They're kind of doing this as they go, but also to allow players to play other versions of WoW or different games entirely. You're probably wondering what there is to do once you hit one of these level brackets though, and that's where the Classic Plus energy really starts to shine through with something they're calling level up raids. They want to have raid-like experiences for players as they reach the level caps in these brackets to help it feel like a temporary endgame as they go along. So for Phase 1, the 5-player dungeon Blackfathom Deeps has been reimagined as a 10-player raid with new encounters, boss mechanics, and loot. The raid lockout is going to be similar to ZG, so it'll be 3 days, and the story of the dungeon, its location, and creatures are pretty much all the same, but there are 7 new bosses dropping entirely new items, as well as secrets hidden within the raid, including a new world buff called the Boon of Blackfathom. This is probably going to be a variation of the Blessing of Blackfathom buff that we already get in the instance that we know about, but one of the other secrets they mentioned, that is obviously now no longer a secret, is that some of the discoveries for runes are going to lead you into that raid naturally. The devs confirmed that they want to explore future raid and dungeon content in the same vein as previously unreleased or unfinished original vanilla content. And at the end of one of their panels, they teased images of a gnomish alarm bot, which is found within Gnomragon, the Scarlet Monastery, and the Karazhan Crypts. So this means that we could have BFD in Phase 1, Gnomragon and Scarlet Monastery raids in Phase 2, Karazhan Crypts in Phase 3 or 4. It's all speculation, but all of that aside, that's some Classic Plus energy and it is very exciting. Still continuing on raids, the devs also confirmed that there will definitely be adjustments to level 60 raids, but it's just too soon and too early to say exactly what they want to do, but they are keen to explore both existing raid content, new tier sets for classes and specs that are being introduced via the new runes. There is a possibility of changing how existing raids play to provide adequate difficulty for the power these new runes are going to be throwing our way, and possibly what order the older raids would be coming in. It's also quite interesting that one of the devs mentioned the Iranicus questline ending abruptly, the mysteries of Karazhan Crypts themselves, and how they're excited to explore the many unanswered questions from vanilla content that was just never finished. Now, this commitment for the new content is not just limited to dungeons and raids, and in phase 1 there will be a new world PvP zone event taking place in Ashenvale. We know from Warsong Gulch that Ashenvale's resources are fought over between the Alliance and the Horde, but now this fight will enter the zone of Ashenvale itself. Killing an enemy player in the zone is going to trigger a worldwide PvP event, calling on players to defeat either a Farseer from the Horde or a Priestess of the Moon from the Alliance. These faction leaders can be weakened by defeating smaller camps throughout the zone, very similar to the way Alteric Valley plays out. And participating in the event is going to earn you reputation with the Warsong Gulch factions. These will have new items added to the reputation vendors. Winning the event is also going to reward you with an item that has a on-use world buff, so you can bring this to your raids or you can save them for later. Another change that for me is a 10 out of 10 big W is one of these rep rewards being a mount that can be used only in Ashenvale and is usable from level 25, but this isn't just any mount, no, this is one of the original unarmored racial mount models from patch 1.4. Absolutely huge. And this Ashenvale World PvP Zone event, it sounds amazing, and what is even more promising is the confirmation that there will be several of these outdoor PvP events unlocked as the level cap increases. I mentioned Warsong Gulch a second ago, and it's important to bear in mind that Warsong Gulch is going to be in at launch, and that you won't be able to progress past the honor rank appropriate for that level bracket, but you will be able to play the matches and earn honor. A concern around honor ranks was actually brought up as well, mostly around the way that the new PvP rank system works in Classic Era and how AV spam is basically king and no one will play and do any real PvP, and if you try to queue for something like Warsong Gulch, it doesn't happen because games aren't getting played because it's not efficient. And the devs are keen to make sure players get to play whatever battleground they like for honor and fun, obviously, and not feel punished. And that the possibility of rated battlegrounds exists for Season of Discovery and even Classic Era, which is huge. Further into the discussion around the Ashenvale World PvP events, they reiterated a keen interest building on the existing lore and fantasy of the zones and having more outdoor world content. Whether it's PvP events or new world bosses, whether there are things to discover that aren't necessarily associated with a new ability, but there may be even new elites in certain zones or even new events related to the fishing tournament. And to wrap things up, I wanted to show these two questions and their answers exactly as they are, because it basically confirms that Season of Discovery is the road we take to get the version of Classic Plus that we want, provided we give feedback and that they listen. A lot of people are really excited for Season of Discovery, but there are some players that are already hesitant because they don't know what will happen at the end of Season of Discovery. Are their characters going to get moved to Classic Era realms and lose all of their new gear, their new runes, and their new spells? We're still figuring out the specifics of everything. We're still trying to determine what the right thing to do is. There may be a version of an Era realm for Season of Discovery. At the end of the day, seasonal content is something we're taking a lot of risks with, and we're learning lessons. There is gonna be some things that people really like and some things people don't really like. We're totally fine with that. If there is a place where the greatest aspects of this season can live, that's where we want our Season of Discovery players to go. There will 100% be a place where characters can migrate once the season ends. Maybe we have to take some runes away, but maybe some runes are so beloved that we can incorporate them into the realm that they go to. We aren't really sure yet, and we are listening to the community for feedback. And the last question simply is Classic Plus? It's interesting. It means so many different things to so many people. Is it making Classic the way it was, but with small tweaks so that the Retribution Paladin or a Balanced Druid are in a better place, but no changes to Molten Core? Or is it adding completely new content? So there's no way to satisfy all players, so Seasons is a way for us to experiment with these things and see what resonates with players and what they're really attached to. Maybe there's a new forever home for those types of mechanics, like a new era server that isn't purely seasonal. The response to the Blackfathom Depths raid on the show floor has been astounding. It's been humbling to see so many players exploring it. Overall, I think the Season of Discovery shows an immense amount of potential. It is the perfect opportunity for the Classic dev team to test a load of ideas, get immediate feedback, keep their finger on the pulse of the community, and get a better idea of what a Classic Plus experience should be for the next project and server. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What does Classic Plus mean to you? How do you feel about a Season of Discovery? Are you going to play? And if you are, what class or classes? And what did you think of BlizzCon 2023 for World of Warcraft? Because personally, I was completely out of the game, apart from dabbling with some hardcore every now and then, but Chris Metzen has pulled me back in. I'm even going to try Dragonflight so I can get ready for the next WoW retail expansion, because it all just looks insane. Anyways, that's it from me. Take care, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.